This afternoon centers around the housing agenda. I have joining me a panel of gentlemen. I'll start with the one on my immediate left. It is Honorary Gerald Githinji, Director of Pinnacle of Excellence. Next to him, I have got Mr. Njuki Kihori, the Manager of Business Development from the Kenya Professional Realtors Association. And furthest from me, I do have with me Mr. Henry Ochieng, CEO of Kenya Alliance of Resident Association. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marika.
Glad to have you with me. So before we even dive into the conversation, housing development and the affordability of housing in the country and more, I want to, of course, touch on the fact that Kenya Professional Realtors Association is having their second annual convention event. It caters for professionals in the industry, bringing together buyers, sellers, and more. And I know you're going to be having it from 22nd to 23rd of November. You're also hosting the first ever Property Realtor Awards. So I want to start off with you, Mr. Njuki. Tell us a little bit more about this event.
Okay, thank you. KPRA is a professional body, and we've been in this industry since 2012. And one of the things that we came to understand is that we need to have conversation to be able to build an industry from all players. And the best way to bring a conversation on the table is to have a convention where we have players from both sides of the coin to come and discuss policy, to come and discuss how to be able to raise the bar, basically, in the industry. And this is what the convention is about. So we are bringing in the government, which is one of the biggest bodies, the private sector, and the other players, the agents and the brokers and everybody who's in the real estate. So they're welcome to come and discuss how do we make the industry better, how do we grow to 2019, what are the challenges that we need to bring on the table and have a conversation with government, because at the end of the day, it's a conversation so that we can make the industry better.
And I also noted that you're holding the first ever Property Realtor Awards as well. So Honorary Githinji, why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
I'm currently a consultant with my own company, Pinnacle of Excellence Limited. Pinnacle of Excellence focuses on getting people to the best that they can be. And one of the things that we'll do to deliver performance excellence in the housing real estate industry is by recognizing those people who have delivered very well. And the award concept is to identify in 15 categories companies and individuals who have really delivered. So these awards will be on the 23rd of this month, next week on Friday. It will be at the Kenya School of Monetary Studies, and we have quite an interesting crowd coming to take part.
All right, thank you very much. And let me move on now to Mr. Henry Ochieng. Of course, the Kenya Alliance of Resident Association is hosting the third Kara Business Expo and Conference. That's Thursday, which is tomorrow, 15th November. It's starting at the Sarit Center all the way to 17th. And I've seen the event is endorsed by the State Department for Housing and Urban Development, as well as the UN Habitat. And it's under the theme, Making Affordable Housing a Reality and Responsiveness to Community Needs. So what do we expect from this particular event?
A number of things are going to be happening at the event. Like you said, it's called the Kara Business Expand Conference. And we are going to look at various activities. One is that we're having a conference that is bringing together various stakeholders in the affordable housing sector or industry to just have a discussion and a conversation on what exactly affordable housing means and what is the roles and responsibility of each party. So we have a two-day conference running tomorrow and then on Friday, bringing together various panelists. And we also have an opening ceremony tomorrow that is being presided over by Mr. Nzioka Waita, who is the Chief of Staff and Head of PDU. And the Principal Secretary for Housing will also be joining us. So apart from the conference, we are also going to have exhibitions. We have a number of exhibitors who have confirmed to be part of the activity. And we are going to have exhibitors from the real estate, exhibitors from the private sector, the civil society, and government, just to come and showcase what they're doing, particularly in regard to supporting the affordable housing agenda. And lastly, we are also going to have what we are calling the annual Resident Associations Excellence Awards. In this, we are identifying and rewarding resident associations who are our members, who have done exemplary well in terms of providing services and promoting the interest of their members. So we want to identify, we want to celebrate them, and we want to encourage them to continue working in support of their members, and most importantly, continue promoting the issue of access to services. So those are the three activities we are having. And of course, like you've said, we are starting tomorrow. And everybody is welcome to join us and to come and sample what we have at the event at Sarit Center from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I've seen that all of these events, of course, are centered around housing, development, urbanization. We're moving towards, achieving, hopefully, this big four agenda pillar of President Uhuru Kenyatta's, which is to have affordable housing and to have 500,000 houses by the end of his final term in office. Now, as we continue this conversation on housing and development, I want to take our attention to the interest capping law, which became operational in 2016, September 14th. It was, and it raised concerns, of course, by the public regarding, it was because the public had raised concerns regarding high cost of credit in the country, and it was viewed as a hindrance to credit access. The borrowing money was extremely high before the rate cap, and over the last few years, the number of actual active mortgages in Kenya remains around 24,000. Now, this is according to CBK's available data. So how has the highly debated interest rate cap affected the real estate sector? That's our first question that I want to pose to you, Honorary Githinji, if you could answer that for me.
The interest rate cap has affected the banking industry, and what the main effect has, banks have gone into an area where they feel more comfortable, where there's less risk, which is in government bonds.
Yes.
That has removed money for the housing industry, yes, and the real estate industry. This is an area that will settle after some time. In terms of financing the real estate, there are a number of methods that are adapted by different countries. One of that is to give government subsidies to housing. At the moment, most of the housing mortgages are 10 to 20 years. It is possible that we can improve, reduce the cost to tenants, to house owners, if you increase the mortgage period from the current about 10 years, yes, to 20, 30 years.
Okay.
At a certain point, Japan went up to 50 years mortgage, which means you get a mortgage, it is going to be for you and for your children, and sometimes to your grandchildren. So the housing, then construction and development needs to produce houses that will be able to last that long.
Okay. All right. And
then finally is, yes, government guarantee,
yes,
to investors to make sure that they are able to have assurance that they're going to get a return out of the investment.
Okay, fantastic. So, of course, we have seen that the housing deficit has been growing by 150,000 units per year because Kenya requires about 200,000 new housing units annually to meet the demand. We're having a lot of influx of people, of course, moving in to the cities. And in fact, it was at about 4.2%, I believe. Yes, 22% of Kenyans living in cities, and the urban population is growing at a rate of 4.2% every year. So we're talking about 500,000 new city dwellers every year. And I want to bring you in, Henry. How effectively do you think the housing industry is actually meeting these demands currently?
As you can see from the statistics, the demand are not being met because we have a deficit of about 2 million houses, and this is growing by 200,000 every single year. So it means the demand for housing compared to the supply is much, much lower. As we speak right now, we have a supply of about 50,000 houses every year against a projection of 250,000, which are supposed to supply to the industry. So looking at that kind of scenario, then that tells you that majority of people who would want to access affordable housing or housing for that matter are not able to do so. And it's because a number of reasons. Because one, in Kenya, the cost of construction is extremely high, and people are not able to be at a point where they're able to construct their own houses, for instance. So material cost, the cost of land, all this goes to affect the affordability of housing. And then, of course, number two, like you said, the uptake for mortgage is quite low. At 25,000 people who are on mortgage plan, yes, in the whole country. That is extremely low, and it's because of the inhibiting cost, the rate of mortgage. And what perhaps we need now to look at is how can we then support this initiative of providing affordable housing by the government so that we can try and reduce that gap of deficiency, okay, in terms of housing. And that's the kind of discussion that even at the Expo we'll be having. True. And we expect various stakeholders in the sector to have a very candid and honest discussion on what must be done and what kind of support must be provided to the government and other stakeholders to ensure that we are actually bridging that gap.
Okay, yeah. All right. I hear what you're saying, and also the fact that we need to perhaps employ technology in order to speed up the process of creating more affordable housing. Finally, as we wrap up, Mr. Njuhi, what would you say is required in terms of the capacity building for the real estate sector in order to meet these demands and even to go beyond them?
When we look at what's been happening in the recent past,
yes.
People are innovating and coming up with new technology of building, which is obviously a bit cheaper. Mm-hmm. And again, if the government is targeting to have that kind of number, they have to work with the private sector. And this is now the people who are the construction companies and yes. the developers. Mm-hmm. And we are seeing a lot of technology and innovation in that regard. Mm-hmm. And also, people are becoming creative in how to own land. We could see people saying that you can pay as little as this much, then you pay over time, then you can do a greenhouse and you still get money from it. So they bring solutions to people owning homes and building houses, and at the same time you're able to get some money from your land that you're still buying. So this brings about a lot of creativity in the industry. Mm-hmm. We've seen, again, as we were looking at the awards criteria, yes. That's what we noticed, that people are very innovative. Okay. People are looking at other ways of having land right. and houses, mm-hmm. and also learning from other countries like Singapore, Malaysia, okay. and as the Honorable said about Japan.
Yes.
Yeah. So okay. it's innovative right
All
now.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. That brings our time to a close. Sadly, there's no limit that can be put on time, but much appreciated for joining us. Of course, we did have Honorary Gerald Githinji, Director of Pinnacle of Excellence. We had Mr. Njuki Kihori,